Hi, and welcome to the Miles on Repeat podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Rasmussen. Um, so today there is no guest. Today I am going to be talking about my most recent adventure on a self-supported 24-hour where I was raising funds for the YMCA. Um, and then I wanted to talk more about what I do outside of this podcast, outside of running. Some people had said when I did my introductory episode about myself, I kind of missed that component. Who would have thought I was just solely focused on running? So I will dive into what I do first, and then we'll go into the 24-hour recap. So I was a nursing assistant most recently for last 5-6 years. And I started off in hospice. I transitioned from hospice to memory care to assisted living, and then eventually my final position was in a physical therapy, occupational therapy office within a transitional care unit. And kind of, as you see, I started with the most care and then kind of eventually got to the most transitionary period. Rather than starting from, transition to kind of extreme. I felt like each movement towards that more transitionary phase kind of made me realize that I love to help people. And that's why I was in the medical field. But in the setting that I was doing it in, I felt like it was more of a maintenance phase or enabling them because they get kind of complacent when they're being taken care of. It's just the way it is. If somebody's going to do something for you, uh, it's easier to just have them do it. So I had been really considering what other avenues to go um, so that I could actually help people help themselves. And I feel like after Tahoe, after I completed Tahoe 200, I really was able to find clarity and confidence to go after things and really make some hard sacrifices, mainly financially, for several months so that I could make a career transition. I applied at a lot of different things, chiropractic offices. I was thinking about being a chiropractic assistant or a physical therapy assistant. Um, but I really was drawn more to the physical fitness side of things after a while. Um, so I started applying at gyms and eventually was hired on at the YMCA as a health and well-being coach. Um, and that's what I've been doing for the last about 7 months or so, is being a health and well-being coach. And then I added in some additional part-time work. In addition to that health and well-being coach role, I was working in there as a chronic health disease educator. I was learning to facilitate their diabetes prevention program and also helping lead a enhanced fitness class, which is an evidence-based program mainly for people with arthritis and other limitations. It's mainly just to help improve their current situation. Um, and I've been loving doing that. I implemented a Journey to 5K program at my work, which was great. And then basically, I got my personal training certificate after I started at the Y. So I'm now a certified personal trainer through NASM. Um, I have yet to do much with that. I started interning at a gym for a little while, but I kind of came to the realization like I needed to stop doing a bunch of part-time jobs that piecing life together, and I really just needed full-time. So I spoke to my manager and she let me know of an opportunity at another YMCA in the area. called the Active Older Adults Program Director. So that person oversees the active older adults programming. So classes, social groups, just various ways to get the active older adults more involved in the Y. And I really was drawn to that opportunity. So I applied, had to do several interviews, and I ultimately was offered the position, which was kind of a surprise, but I'm really excited to begin that. Oddly enough, at the same time, I've started my run coach certification through YMCA, so primarily going to focus on ultra runners, moving out from there. But I'm looking forward to stepping into my new role. On the 14th of April, I'll be transitioning over to my new role. And then hopefully I'm finished with my run coach cert. So I'm hoping the combination of the personal training certificate and the run coach certification will help me not only help myself train better, which I can say it already has, but so that I'm a better coach for my athletes. And, I think I've learned through my injuries that I've discussed previously, how beneficial being a well-rounded athlete is. Well-rounded looks different for everybody, but I'd say you're doing some sort of recovery, you're doing some sort of strength work, specific strength work, and then, diet, hydration, addressing sleep, all of those things, I think make up for our most healthy self. So I'm really looking forward to finishing those programs so that I can have that in addition to this new position. And what that looks like, I'm not sure whether that means I'm going to start my own business or join some other coaching platform that's out there. So that remains to be seen, but I will be sure to keep you all in the loop. So that's my professional background. Most recently, I mentioned I'm at the YMCA. I mentioned I did this 24-hour run raising funds for that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Right now, for the next few weeks, we have our annual campaign going on. And what that annual campaign is to raise funds for programs that the Y offers to the community for free. So there are scholarships that are offered to foster children. They get a free membership to the Y and they're able to use the facilities there. There's also scholarships that go to our seniors. It also provides funding for our programs like Live Strong for cancer patients, both active in their cancer treatments and post-cancer treatment. So there's a lot of different programming it benefits. Our camp counselor and training program, the list is pretty endless on where those funds go. And 100% of what we raise is going right back into the community. I had some people joke with me when I was posting it, that's paying for your new promotion and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it honestly, it doesn't go to anybody in the organization. It goes directly back to the public and helps fund so many different programs that the Y offers. So that is a little bit about the cause that I was raising funds for on this 24-hour run. Another reason why I wanted to do the 24-hour run, I guess fear of missing out. I've been seeing a lot of people doing some pretty amazing things that I know, just on a wide scale. Saul, who I had last week, man, talking to him really was just another push in that direction. Do something big and self-supported. It was scary for me to say I'm going to do that. But I've talked to so many people that have done these incredible things. Every single person I've had on this podcast has inspired me in some sort of way. Like if you think back to my first guest, Deanna, she was preparing for the Florida FKT, which she absolutely smashed. I mean, over 2 days faster than any man or woman has done it. So she's the overall FKT holder now. Hopefully going to get her back on to talk about that FKT. I would love to have her there. Then you had Daniel, my second guest. He did the Appalachian Trail, self-supported. He's done all these 200s on his own. Just ridiculous. Jess Green, she, did her own 100-mile around her neighborhood with her friend Sam. I mean, oh gosh. And then you have Emily Ketty. She's done, 32 plus solo FKTs. It's kind of mind-blowing to me the amount of people I've talked to that have done these things. And then I've got like friends back home. Like I think it was the same weekend I did this 24-hour. This guy I know, Tim Fryer, back home, he did like his own 50K by himself. I've had another friend do his own 50K back home. My friend Justin Stenerson, he does 50K self-supported all the time, like crazy ones, like running around a roundabout. He's ran around a tree, like for a 50K. I really hope I get to have him on someday, because he is so interesting, and so unconventionally inspiring, I think. I feel like people want to put things in a box, and you only see what you see when you're seeing them do all this cool stuff, right? You don't see what's going behind it, and you don't necessarily know if the practices they're putting in place are, really sound advice, but it's still, I don't know. I am just endlessly inspired by so many people I know. I just see them getting out there doing these crazy long distances. I know so many people that have set FKTs, like long distance FKTs. And I had kind of done something similar. The only time I've ever chased an FKT was with my friend Jess Walhoff. She had attempted the Mickelson Trail in South Dakota. And I think that first attempt, I want to say, was in the summer of 2020 or 2019. I can't remember. And then we kind of decided that we would attempt it together in December of 2020 when we attempted it together. And at the end of the day, I got pretty cold, and I wasn't able to keep my body temperature up, and I was just kind of over it. And I said, I really don't feel like doing this anymore. So that stopped her attempt as well, because we were doing it together, and I just think she didn't feel safe. We saw like a cougar track on the trail not too long before, but we did 66 miles, a little over 66 miles of the 109-mile trail. But again, this wasn't a solo effort. I mean, I had Jess, we had friends that were supporting us. And then she went back and she got the FKT last June. So, third time was the charm for her. So good job for Jess on that. And I'd love to have her come on and talk about that sometime too. But anyway, I'm straying from my point. My point was, I have never really tried anything huge supported. I'd say my longest self-supported was like a 50K before this. So after just talking with all these people, seeing all these things, gosh dang you, Strava, for being such a bad influence, and just like ramping up my need to just do something. I'm not doing a lot of racing right now with this transition in jobs, and just financially things that I need to take care of in life that take precedence over paying for a race. I love racing. I'm going to try and volunteer more this year, so I can still be a part of that atmosphere. But I just decided, hey, why don't we just try this 24-hour run? We'll raise a little money for the Y, hopefully. Um, and also, it's great training for my upcoming race at Devil's Gulch 100 in July. Um, so I decided to set out for my 24-hour run on Friday. Um, and it the funny thing, it was just after the lunar eclipse and blood moon. We had a full moon that night. The weather wasn't looking great. The weather all weekend wasn't looking great, but I saw my best window was Friday through Saturday. So I started at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Um, and I'm going to be honest with you, I did not like plan this thing out. Like, I got all the stuff I needed. I stocked up on all my snacks. I had a general concept of what I was doing, but I didn't plan a route. My idea was like, I'm going to stay away from the house all day. And then at night, I'm going to do loops in the neighborhood. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a lot of discomfort running in the evening in Tacoma. Um, I'm from South Dakota, and I still haven't adjusted to how unsafe it can be in a big city. Um, for the most part, nothing happens and we're good. Or, I'm sleeping, so I don't know what's going on at night, but I'm assuming everything's good. Um, but anyway, that's what I decided would work best for me is, for motivation purposes, staying away from the house all day because I'm going to see enough of it at night. I was just like, that works. So I started off at 9 a.m. on Friday. The weather was a little frigid. And I packed to be gone for at least 6 hours. So I had even extra calories just in case. And I had, you know, extra electrolyte powders already portioned out. So I was all set. I had money to buy water if I had to, or buy anything on the way. And I kind of had a rough idea of where it's going. So I started off and headed into a place called Fort Steilacoom Park. It has a ton of trails there. And so I was just like, okay, well, it's almost 4 miles to Fort Steilacoom Park. I'll run 5 or 6 there, which is what I did. I ran about 6 miles at Fort Steilacoom Park. On the way out of Fort Steilacoom Park, I stopped at a gas station and had my first water refill and used the bathroom there. And then carried on my way. I went into what they call Old Steilacoom and dropped down kind of into the water area and then climbed back up out of there and headed back towards the park that I was just at. I went past that park and then I started headed towards one of the golf courses nearby. There's a creek called Chambers Creek that leads out into the Puget Sound, and there's a trail that runs along that. So I ran through some neighborhoods to get to that Canyon Creek trail to run along Chambers Creek. I followed that all the way out until you reach the Sound, and then I had to cross a very sketchy highway and bridge that, I mean, you have to run on the road to get across this bridge. So you have to time it pretty well. And there was like bikers waiting to come on the other side of the bridge, and I was on that side. So we just, like, as soon as we had our window, they went, I went, we waved at each other. It was fine. Then from that sketchy bridge, like, you're able to get onto the slope trail that runs along the side of Chambers Creek Park, and Chambers Creek Golf Course. So I say park, but it's really like Chambers Creek Golf Course is a pretty well-known golf course. It's like a Scottish style golf course, like right off the water, with like no trees. I mean, it's a completely open rolling hills. They even have like Stonehenges down at the base of it. Um, Ronnie proposed to me at Chambers Creek on the beach, so it's always a special place to go. So I ran up the slope trail, and Chambers Creek Trail is paved that goes around the golf course, and it's like a 5K loop, I think, and you gain like, I don't know, 350 to 400 feet in that, because you drop. There's two sides to drop down, and I gotta tell you, one side I don't like going down or up because it's like steep, and then it kind of flattens, and then it's steep, and then it kind of flattens, and then you kind of go down, and then it, it's just a beast. But anyway, I decided, hey, we're gonna do some more hills. I'd already done quite a bit of climbing through the trails that I'd done so far. So I dropped down, went around Chambers Creek Golf Course on that paved path I was mentioning. And it was so funny because I was hitting that uphill, and I was, I think, 18 and a half miles in, and these two guys just come sprinting past me, and they start up, and this is the hill that, like, initially, like, it's, I don't know, it's got to be like over a 15% grade at the initial climb of it. It doesn't last for very long, but it is pretty steep, and these guys were like going hard. You know what I did? I power walked that thing. When I came up around and got to the flatter part of the uphill, I saw one of them. He was walking already, and I mean, I never passed them. I did a run walk up the hill, and I never passed him, but I almost did. We got to the bathrooms at the same time. I refilled at the at the bathrooms at Chambers Creek, and then I climbed up out of there, and I headed to Firehouse Subs. So from where I was at Chambers Creek, I had, I'd say, almost 6 miles to run to get to Firehouse. I ordered the sub on my way there, so that it'd be ready when I got there, and I'm sure it was ready much sooner than when I actually arrived. But I had already pre-planned this out. Like, I'd been thinking, like, oh, I've been thinking about what I wanted to eat for hot food, and Whole Foods. I carry a ton of Whole Foods on me. I'm a pretty stellar eater. I eat every 30 minutes. I aim for 200 to 300 grams of carbs, or sorry, 200 to 300 calories. 200 to 300 calories per hour is what I shoot for. And then for carb count, I like anywhere from like 45 to 60 grams of carbs an hour. So I usually only do like one gel an hour, and then the rest is all whole foods. And that seems to work pretty well for me. Sometimes I find myself craving more whole foods. And I do like, I do natural and organic for the most part. So like I get like the Bobo's Bites, these Nature's Bakeries brownies. Those are the most amazing thing on a run because they're like moist and delicious, and they're chocolate brownies. Like don't even get me started. And I think those alone have like 300 and something grams or 30 some grams of carbs in them. So I love those. And I got like bags of potato chips, and I like the kettle cooked ones, and then I had some like Annie's organic fruit chews, and I don't know, I had some Cliff Bars, things like that. Those are kind of things that I like to have, and then I throw other things in there too. Um, right now I've switched to honey stinger gels. Um, I just noticed like a lot of things with maltodextrin in them don't sit well with me. And like I like the knack stuff, but I'm impartial to maple syrup. So it kind of gets repetitive after a while and it's not my favorite. So that's what I was using nutritional wise. So around 24 miles in, that's when I had my first like real solid food, though not just my snacks that I had. And that was, I think, I was like 5 hours in, about. When I got there, I ate my sub and then I ran home, which is like another 3 miles. So I got home at when I had been 27 miles in. I came home, I changed my socks and took care of my feet to make sure they were doing good. Um, it had been raining on and off and I was sweaty. So I like to stay as dry as possible to prevent chafing. So I changed like my bra and my shirt and I took off. From my house, I headed out the other direction that I had went this morning. So I went the opposite direction. I didn't repeat any streets on the way out. I headed out on a street called Orchard. Um, went uh, went around Tacoma, basically. Well, actually, I kind of went into University Place. There's a bunch of little towns here, so details are not super important. Uh, I stopped at a bathroom that I didn't know existed at this park. That was exciting. That's always exciting when you find a bathroom or like water fill station when you least expect it and you need it. So I was thrilled about that. Um, and then I started to head back home because I had a rough idea like I wanted to be back in my neighborhood by like 6:30, just so that it was prior to the sun going down and I, you know, didn't have to worry about that. So um, on my way back, I was like 35 miles in and I stopped in at the Y I'm currently working at, refilled there, said hi to some people, and then scooted on home. I ran around the neighborhood until I think I was like 40, a little over 41 miles in. And I came inside and ate a burger and a bag of chips and very reluctantly headed back out. I think I changed then too. No, maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. No, I don't think I did. Anyway, Ronnie was going to bed because he was going to come pace me, whatever, run with me overnight. But he wasn't going to join me until about 1. And so it was kind of up to me to just stay motivated till then. I went out and I started having difficulties once it got closer to 8 p.m. Like I'm in bed a lot of times by like 8:30, and I think the fact that home was like my aid station. There's a fire going in the house and it's nice and cozy. It had started to rain outside with like 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Um, I just found myself getting less and less motivated. And then I took like a kind of extended break around, I think, mile 45 or 46. I took a little break because I was getting really sleepy. So I came inside and I made a cup of coffee and then I walked like a loop that was, it was like a half a mile loop. I walked that loop with my coffee. And then after that, I felt more alert, more awake, more motivated. So I got back out there. Um, but after the coffee, I was having to pee every 20 to 30 minutes. So I wasn't able to make a very big loop because by that point, with the sleepiness I was feeling, I was moving a little bit slower. I was doing a little bit more walking and a little less running. Like my legs felt fantastic, but my mental clarity and alertness were definitely suffering. Um, and kind of between 9 and 10 p.m., just some undesirable activity was kind of happening in my neighborhood. There was a lot of, like, I don't know, people, it was a Friday night. It was before St. Patty's Day. You know, I'm sure people were out doing stuff, but I'd be running down a street and all of a sudden, like, a car would come, like, slowly past me and then, like, stop in the middle of the road. Sometimes I'd see somebody get out. Sometimes I didn't notice anything, but it was just, like, sketching me out. I get kind of anxious, um, especially in a city setting. If I was on trails, I think I'd probably feel a lot more comfortable, and less anxious. I feel more unsafe in the city than I do in the woods. So I knew that was going to be a factor. But after a while, I started seeing, like, a pretty heavy police presence. I mean, I was seeing a cop drive by a different part of the neighborhood, like, every 10 minutes or so. So it was pretty frequent. And then sometime around there, um, like, the cop cars were coming by and they had, like, a spotlights on them. And in the combination of all these random cars, like, being weird, and then you got police going around with these spotlights on, like, it just made me feel very on edge. I didn't feel safe. I know, like, people would think, oh, like, the cops are around, like, you should feel safe. But yeah, why do they have their spotlight on? Like, what are they looking for? Are they looking for something? I don't know. Um, and I feel like I let that fear kind of win. So I came home and I ate my other burger that I had. Um, and I just decided I didn't want to go back out there until Ronnie was with me. I didn't want to be by myself. He had woken up to go to the bathroom, and I should have just said, hey, get your stuff on, we're going. I didn't. But yeah, so I ended up staying in the house from, I think it was like 10:40 until Ronnie joined me at 1. I was not expecting that long of a break. I was kind of discouraged. So I sat at 53 miles for several hours, you know. I think I hit, like, a mileage in between, like, when I was just walking around the house. But um while I was resting, or, not out there running, I had the burger and all that. But then after that, I didn't stay consistently eating and hydrating like I would be if I was out there. And I just felt like my energy levels depleting. While I was waiting, I did I call them my squeezy pants, but they're some knockoff compression boots. They're not like Normatec or anything. They're they look like robot legs, but I did those. I mean, my legs were feeling good, but I was just like, hey, I don't want anything to lock up while I'm just sitting here and not out there. So I did those. But I wasn't maintaining really good hydration and nutrition strategies while I was there. And that really kind of reared its ugly head after Ronnie joined me. I was just having such issues with sleep deprivation, and not really sleep deprivation. It was more just, it was a very heavy fatigue. I just felt so exhausted and, like, loopy. And that is not typical for me at all. I've never been in a situation before where I was walking and I felt like I was going to fall asleep. Even at Tahoe, I don't really feel like I felt that way. Um, I felt like I wanted to sleep at Tahoe, but I didn't I didn't feel as out of it as I felt that night, and I don't know why. And after Ronnie joined me, I mean, we started getting hailed on and the wind was just whipping. We couldn't stay dry. I was just so out of it that I didn't want to run anymore. He was getting cold because of that. I was getting cold because of that. And I just started taking breaks like every 2 miles. Like I just got so unmotivated. Excuse me. And I feel like I was really confronted with a lot of things that I was afraid of, and I chose to shy away from those things rather than face them. So I feel like it's a great learning experience for myself. But I found out how incredibly difficult it is to remain motivated on the task at hand when there's nothing really in it for you. Like, I didn't get to share that experience really with anybody but Ronnie. And his experience, like, he just was seeing me just like crash and burn was his experience. Um, but yeah, there's like nothing at the end of it, other than saying like, hey, I did this. I didn't, I expected it to feel different, I guess. But yeah, so I only ended up doing 10 miles with Ronnie in 6 hours. I think is what it was. That's how often we were taking breaks. And I came in the house to make like eggs and toast around 6 in the morning. Or no, it was around 7 in the morning. Because I had only had 2 hours left. Like, that's all I had. And I just said, you know what? I don't want to do anymore. Like, it was Ronnie's mom's birthday, and we were going to have a party to go to. And I was tired. And like I said, I was like unmotivated. I was just like, there's nothing really in it for me. And so I stopped at 22 hours. I accumulated a little over 64 miles. But at the end of the day, like, if you broke down my run, walk, and idle time, I think I had over 10 hours of running time, like 4.5 of walking time, and 7 hours and 40 minutes of idle time. So the fact that my idle time was, one, greater than my walking time, and two, like, not that much less than my running time, kind of is a disappointment in myself. And that's silly to sound, because I had very loose goals. I was like, I would like to hit 85 miles. That'd be sweet. Up until like mile 42, I was still on pace to do a sub 24-hour 100 and get 100 miles done on a thing. But I don't know. Yeah, I've been trying to unpack it since it all happened. And I think what it came down to is there was too many factors that I let control me rather than control them. Like the stuff going on with the police, and not really knowing what was going on there. And then the weather, which is out of my control, not wanting to be in hailstorms and getting whipped around and just drenched for hours. And then just having the comfort of home. I think that was the most challenging aspect of it, was like, home was the aid station. Like, how do you keep yourself out of that? How do you stay motivated when there's nothing external? Yeah, I was raising funds for the Y, but people are going to donate, or they're not, regardless of what I do. Like, either people are going to see the benefit, or they'll just cheer me on. I don't know. I don't feel like there was a big enough like why in this thing. I was just doing it because I wanted to do something big. I wanted to do something long. And I think I had higher expectations than I met, but that's okay. Like, I learned a lot and what to do moving forward, because I know that I can go the distance and I could do it faster than what I do it. I just gotta stop getting in my own way. Um, but yeah, so I'm probably gonna be doing some more self-supported long stuff in the build to Devil's Gulch 100. I'm really excited about Devil's Gulch 100. Um, I do want to talk a little bit about that too. So I think it was back in like, gosh, when was it? November, December, something like that. I got approached about being what they called a running influencer for the Devil's Gulch 100 race. So what that means is they gave me a race entry and kind of asked me to promote the race. They also gave me a discount code that I will be linking in here for you guys to use, but the code is just all caps Amanda 25. That's good for a 10% discount on their 100-mile, 50-mile, and half marathon. They also have a kids race at this race too. So it was kind of funny because I had known about the Devil's Gulch race. I've had several friends do it. Ronnie's friend Bridget, she did the 50-mile last year as a kind of training run race for her solo attempt at Mount Rainier during the Wonderland Trail, which she also did. So that was pretty awesome. But I had known about the race, and it's a notoriously hard race. Um, it's had very, very few finishers in the 5 years it's been run. I will say it is a race that I don't think is getting enough visibility um, because they modified it this year. It's 100 miles point to point, essentially. And, the sign up list is not very long. Like, there are not many entrants into this race. And I think it's just not being broadcasted enough. I don't know. I don't know what they need to change. I think it's great they brought on myself, Tommy. He's over in England. Tommy Run PT on Instagram, and at Strong Mama Miles on Instagram, Heidi Baker. All three of us were selected as the running influencers for this event. Basically, we just have to talk about it, talk about our training, mention it once a week, drop our discount code, try and get people interested in this race. It goes through some absolutely otherworldly territory. It's in Wenatchee, Washington. There's what they call hoodoos. They're like stone formations, rock formations. So you go through the hoodoos. You get outrageous views of Mount Rainier. You can, I think, see Mount Baker up there too. And you're getting some rough and rugged terrain too. So it's a really beautiful race. It's a challenging race. There is over 20,000 feet of climb in this particular event. And it varies anywhere from being, a smooth single track to forest roads to rocky terrain. So there's a mix of everything out there. And it's in July, and it's extremely hot because it is more in the eastern part of Washington, which there's more of it's drier, it's more desert-like out in eastern Washington as opposed to in western Washington where I'm at. It's more of we have rainforest over here. We get a lot more rain, all that sort of thing. So I was selected to run this race, and then a few weeks later, Heidi had a giveaway, And excuse me. And Ronnie ended up winning that giveaway. So him and I were supposed to do Willapa 100 in November together. And then now we get to do Devil's Gulch 100 together. He had an autoimmune flare up back then. I've discussed that previously, but he was unable to run Willapa. I chose to drop early at Willapa because it was making me sad seeing him at every aid station, knowing that he wasn't out there with me. So Devil's Gulch is kind of our chance to get to do that 100-mile distance together. We've done, I think the longest together is 40 miles in a race setting. So I'm excited. We have lots of plans to do other things like the Wonderland Trail, and there's a route out here called the Izzy Alps 50K, which is gnarly. So we're looking forward to doing a lot of cool things while training for Devil's Gulch, to really get our mountain legs ready. We've been doing a lot more heavy lifting too, leg specific heavy lifting, trying to really build up that strength. And I think it's paying off. I will say, when I did that 64 miles, I virtually no soreness. Like I wasn't really sore at all during the attempt. Nothing really hurt. Everything felt fine. Everything's felt normal since then. I dealt with some like residual fatigue Sunday, but ever since then I've felt 100% normal. So I feel like my legs have been solid since training for Tahoe and completing Tahoe. Like my legs can handle it. They can handle anything. I really just, it's always going to be mental, mentality is the hardest part when it comes to ultras. Because once you get that like negative voice in your head and you start listening to it and you start letting it control your race, it just tanks you. And I've been there, I've done that. So my vision for the rest of this year is doing some more long self-supported stuff, really refining that mental toughness that I once had. I once could do some pretty fast, hard things. And I don't really need to do it fast, but I'd like to just get that 100-mile monkey off my back. I've DNF'd so many of them, and I've only completed one official 100-mile distance. I need that finish at Devil's Gulch this year. So I'm going to do everything I can to get there. Even if it was something like I got into this race based on the amount of followers I had, I don't really think it makes a difference how many followers I have. Because I think like such a small percentage actually interact with me. But, that's fine too. I don't really care that much. Anyway, I'm derailing from the point. I didn't expect that I would have this much to say, but here we are, 48, almost 49 minutes in, and I'm still talking. So anyway, those are the things that I have kind of on the agenda this year. I am hopefully still going to be at Bigfoot this year volunteering. That's the major commitment to volunteering that I have this year. I'm also going to look at supporting some local races. So just getting out there and being with my community so I don't completely miss out on that race atmosphere that I love so much. Yeah, but that was part of my background, part of what I just completed, and then also what I'm looking for ahead. So those are the things that I'm doing, that I have coming out. I'll keep you guys updated. Probably have these little once-off shows where it's just me blabbing. And if you listen, you listen. If you don't, that's cool too. I'm going to blab anyway. But I'm looking forward to some of my upcoming guests that I have. I'm really excited to release this week's episode, which I don't know if I'm releasing this episode when I'm recording it or not. So I'm not even going to mention who the guest is because it may be irrelevant if this one comes out later than I anticipate. Anywho, that was that. That's what I've got to say. I'm excited to do some more episodes with some more amazing guests. I've got a ton of people I have in mind that I want on this show to just know their story because, man, I've met and follow some really, really incredible people. And to just get a front row seat to hear, their story and, maybe some race recaps, FKT recaps, all those things, gear recommendations, nutritional stuff. I'm going to try and get it all on here. I want this to be everything running. And yes, I will have some sub 200-mile runners come on this show. So don't worry. It's not all going to be 200-mile runners, I promise. I just been having a lot of them. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Miles on Repeat podcast. I will be linking the donation link for the YMCA, which I mentioned earlier on this episode. So that will be linked here. I'll also link the sign up link to the Devil's Gulch 100, their altar sign up. Again, code is all caps Amanda 25. So that is it for this episode of Miles on Repeat podcast. Please like, share, follow wherever you get your podcasts. We are available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcast, and streaming on YouTube. Until next time, happy trails.